This is not something that I like to say, but E3 is really dying, or at least E3 as we know it. We of course know that Sony will once again not be attending this convention on June 9th, and this week we had some other troubling news and saw the current list of companies that will be going this year. So I want to go over that, look at what we can expect at E3 2020, because even though it seems to die a slow death, this year will still be very interesting. So a like on the video would be very appreciated, and let's go. E3 is of course all about the upcoming games, especially the games that will launch at the end of the year. And I'm doing a February giveaway for one of those 2020 games of your choice on your platform of choice. All you need to do is follow the link in the pinned comment for a chance to win, and be sure you are a subscriber of the channel as well before you enter. I will reach out to the winner on March 1st. And I think we can all agree that the press conferences are the most fun part of E3, right? It's always super interesting to see what everyone has up their sleeve, especially the announcements that nobody saw coming are the absolute best.
Then show me what you know.
And that E3 show before this one, with The Lost Guardian, Horizon and Final Fantasy VII Remake, was insane too. Sony usually takes the crown with the most awesome announcements in my opinion, and Nintendo could deliver some amazing moments too when they still had their stage shows. And yes, this Twilight Princess reveal was from a while back, because now they only do E3 presentations that are similar to the Nintendo Directs, so they are just simply not as exciting anymore. And with Sony leaving the show altogether, we already had a kind of downwards trend. But still though, we can see some awesome moments at the leftover press conferences, even when they reveal games that we will not be able to play for the next 8 years. And after those press conferences, the door to the convention actually opens, and the people that are lucky enough to be in LA can check out the newly announced games or new gameplay demos for the already announced projects. And Jeff Keighley always made sure that if you were not going to E3, you still had some awesome content to watch at home. Like he brought Elon Musk on stage to talk about his gaming experiences, and also Jack Black to go over his new YouTube channel. But of course, you could also see developers talk about their games, like here we got new info about Control with gameplay in the background. Well, seems like this E3 Coliseum will be different this year or disappear altogether. Jeff Keighley is namely not going to E3 2020. He shared a statement on Twitter. He basically doesn't agree with the direction that the show is taking. And that's pretty big, and again, I don't know what will happen with the E3 Coliseum, but even if they still find other people to host and produce it, just him not attending the biggest gaming show for the first time in 25 years is a sign of what is happening with E3. He will still do the Gamescom opening night live though in August. It was pretty fun last year, although the news of Sony buying Insomniac that was announced during the show but not on the show kind of overshadowed it. I remember everyone on social media was talking about the opening night live, and then when Sony announced that they bought Insomniac, everyone was talking about that instead. Pretty bad timing for Jeff, but I totally think that the show this year should be even bigger, and he will of course also do the Game Awards in December. And the reason that Jeff wanted to announce his E3 absence right now was a new leak. I saw the E3 website leak and said, you know what, I really need to let people know what to expect from me, so no one is disappointed. Last year, the organizers of the E3 leaked personal data of more than 2,000 attendees. Again, we apologize for the inconvenience and have already taken steps to ensure that this will not happen again. Well, now they leaked the list of exhibitors at the show. Like first, this was obtainable for everyone, and now if you go to that same URL, you have to like enter a username and password. Not weird that people and companies are not trusting this show anymore, but still many will attend, and this list that you see right here is not final. Like Nintendo is not on the list yet, but they will be at the show, they already confirmed. Before we look at the wasteland that is the West Hall, I first want to touch on the South Hall and what we can expect. This is the floor plan of 2019 of this third-party focused hall, and all of those big companies will be attending E3 2020. And I totally expect some big things from them. While I don't think that Bethesda will announce any new games, we could finally see what Starfield looks like and if it can compete with the other big open world RPGs that are out there, because of course after Fallout 76 and Fallout 4 to some regard, they have to prove themselves again. Starfield seems to be a next-gen game, so with the PlayStation 5 and Series X being fully revealed before we head into E3, I totally think that they can go crazy with some new footage. I really hope we get a new taste of Deathloop as well. Dishonored 2 released in 2016 and the DLC in 2017, so they had around the 3 years to work on this new IP by the time that E3 hits, so you would think that they have something to show, right? I think Square Enix will mostly focus on the 2 games that they have planned for the rest of this year. Avengers of course got delayed and will now launch on September 4th, and Outriders is a holiday 2020 release. I could see them tease a new Final Fantasy at their press conference, because I totally think they will do another stage show this year, right? I really can't wait for both the Avengers and Outriders, so seeing more should be awesome. And I will, by the way, link to my big video on Outriders that I did after my hands-on at the end of this video, because I'm really surprised and I can't wait to see more. Warner Bros is going to be interesting for sure. Batman will very likely be part of their lineup, and I think it will be announced before E3, but I really hope they will have more games. Last year they only had Lego Star Wars, the year before that they were pushing Hitman 2 because they had no other games from their own studios, and in 2017 they also really had nothing noteworthy. Pretty expensive booth space for no huge AAA games. So it has to change, I think, this year. Rocksteady would be awesome, a new game from the Shadow of War developers Monolith Productions. Or is it time for that leaked Harry Potter RPG? I would not bet on anything apart from Batman, like Batman seems to be a lock, but I hope they have more than that. Bandai Namco would be awesome with Elden Ring. I totally think we will have more info on that at this year's E3, since it was announced at E3 last year. Capcom is in this weird position because they just launched Resident Evil 3 Remake before E3. Will they already have Resident Evil 8? Seems a little too soon. Monster Hunter also had its post-launch updates, so I'm curious if they will do anything big. And 2K will hopefully have that new IP from the Mafia 3 creators, Hangar 13, that they said they would announce in the next couple of months, so E3 seems like a great place. I also did a video on that you can find on the channel. Ubisoft is one of the most exciting ones, obviously for me. They will have at least 7 games at E3, like Roller Champions, the new Just Dance, Rainbow Six Quarantine, that co-op game, Gods and Monsters, and Watch Dogs Legion will all be there again. And more interesting are the 2 unannounced games, and a high chance that it will be the new Assassin's Creed and a Far Cry. Thanks to Jason Schreier as well, who noted this on Twitter, and he has been right, of course, many times before. And one of those 2 unannounced games will already launch this year. Makes sense that that is Assassin's Creed, because it always launches in the holiday period. So I would not be surprised if we saw that game before E3 and then a new Far Cry at the show for the first time. Either way, a lot to like in my opinion. Let's go now to the West Hall though, because that is likely going to be a ghost town like last year. First, Sony and Microsoft were head to head in this hall, and I really like this picture that shows the 2 brands like facing each other. But now we know, of course, that Sony is not there, and Microsoft, while it will still have an E3 press conference, has its own space in the Nokia Theater next to the convention center, so will not have a booth space. And for comparison, this was the E3 2018 West Hall floor map, and in 2019 it looked like this, with an E3 esports zone and an Unreal Garden at E3. And we should totally expect more like this at E3 2020. Nintendo, as the last of the big 3 who is still like at that West Hall, is really saving that hall. Otherwise you have a ton of small parties there, and last year you even had like a big sort of dark zone where nothing was happening at all. E3 2020 is not going to be that amazing event that we hoped at the beginning of this year. An absolute battle between the PlayStation 5 and the Series X. Microsoft show still promises to be great though, because they will likely tease next-gen games from their newly bought studios, and also reveal more details about their new systems, because they're likely doing 2 2 instead of 1 at the end of this year. And Cyberpunk will very likely be part of that show again. Not sure if Keanu will show up again, that would be awesome. We will maybe see more of Dying Light 2. And that's of course also the thing, like all those delayed games that were supposed to hit in the first half of 2020 will now return to E3 because they're launching after the show. E3 2020 will be fine because 2020 is such an important year and the second half of 2020 is stacked. So a lot of people will want to highlight their games at the convention in June. Still, it's hard to not notice the diminish of E3 that will likely happen even more in the following years. Maybe more publishers will do an EA Play style of thing on their own location around the same time that E3 is happening. Like there's still something magical and also practical about having everyone in 1 week together and in one place to cover everything that is going on. I hope the ESA can get it together though and prove why E3 is here to stay and why people should return. But yeah, everything they've said so far about the new and revitalized experience filled with celebrities and insiders has me scared that they are going in a weird different direction. Luckily we still have Gamescom though that is getting bigger, and if all the major companies will host their own big events, it simply means that we have more shows and things to look forward to throughout the year than 1 week where everything happens. I will likely be going to E3 2020 again, and I can't wait to bring you all the info about that new Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Cyberpunk, Avengers. It's going to be awesome, just sadly not as insane or mind-blowing as the previous years were, although it's likely going to be better than last year. Last year was kinda down year too. Either way, totally subscribe for more coverage on all those games and more in-depth E3 predictions as we near the show in June. Like this video to support the channel and totally become a member of the channel for 2 days early access and ad-free access to all my big Sunday videos. Just hit the join button next to the subscribe button. You really help the channel if you become a member. It's of course not necessary, but again, it really helps me out. For now though, I will speak to you next time. Check out that Outriders video by clicking on the screen, and goodbye.